Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 1005, January the 5th, 2020, Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. First of all, remember to get your votes in for Dumbass of the Week in the comments section of this video. And of course, last week we did the Dumbass of the Year, and of course that turned out to be a tie. Some of the same contestants will be in play this week, but I think there's another individual who may do really well this week in Dumbass of the Week. So I'm looking forward to tallying up those votes on the video in the comment section of this video tomorrow. Alrighty, let's get on to some of the news of the day. Well, I can't tell you how insane the left looks in the last couple of days since Trump took out Soleimani and the other yahoo. So now you're seeing stories all over the left-wing media, literally stories all over the left-wing media, that Trump is trying to start World War III with Russia. God. You know, you would think that these people, before they even start that, would stop and think, wait a minute, what's the major problem with that? They don't even think about the fact that the past 3 years they've been pushing the conspiracy theory that Trump is, working for Putin, that he and Putin are working together, or something like that. The sort of Trump-Russia delusion. Trump and Putin are good buddies. Oh yes. Up until a couple days ago when Trump takes out Soleimani. Now all of a sudden, according to the left wing, Trump is trying to get us into World War III with Putin and the Russians. Wait a minute. Isn't Trump working for the Russians? Isn't he Putin's buddy? Then why would he want to start World War III with Putin? He wouldn't. It makes no sense. But as you can see, Trump derangement syndrome has some sort of an effect on the brain. It causes people to go stupid. And these people weren't exactly smart when they began. So here the left wing's coming completely unhinged. They're not even capable of figuring out that the newest narrative that they came up with about 2 days ago, after Trump killed Soleimani, they're not even smart enough to figure out that that completely contradicts the previous narrative of the past 3 years. So which is it? Is Trump an agent of Putin, or is he trying to start World War III with Putin? Well, the answer to that question is neither. In fact, just a couple days ago, Putin called Trump to thank him because Trump had passed along some information about a terrorist attack they knew was being planned in St. Petersburg that was supposed to take place during the holidays. And Trump called Putin and said, hey, I want to give you some intel. You got some guys over there that are planning to blow up some stuff during the holidays. He gave them the information, and the Russians were able to go get these people and prevent it. And Putin called and thanked Trump. Said, hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. You stopped this terrorist attack. We really appreciate it. So, so Trump and Putin work together when they can, and they oppose each other when they need to. They're both representing their countries. They have their own interest at stake. And whenever they cross swords, they have a conversation. They probably have to agree to disagree on a lot of things, but neither of them are crazy. Neither of them are stupid, and they cooperate when they can, and they deal with the other issues in a diplomatic way on issues that can't be resolved on a phone call. So it's just, there's nothing to it. There's nothing to any of this. There is no Russian collusion. There never was. Trump was never an agent of Putin. Never was. Doesn't want to be. Of course, this whole idea that we're trying to have World War III, or that Trump's trying to start World War III, even, whenever I hear these people, and I've been seeing this has been going on for years. Every time we have a little skirmish with North Korea or Iran, or, prior to Trump, I'm talking, because now we don't really have them issues too much with North Korea. And of course, once we invaded Iraq, we don't have those issues. But when Saddam Hussein was around, it was the same type of stuff. Oh, it's going to be World War III. This is insanity. There is not going to be a World War III. Those days are over. World wars are over. They're not happening anymore. Why? Because at the end of the last World War, it ended with 2 atomic bombs being dropped on Japan. A world war would be the end of the world as we know it. If the United States and the Russians were to deploy just 10% of their nuclear arsenal, within 5 years, 90% of the world's population would be gone. Why? Because we would destroy the food supply. Very simple, and everyone knows that. Okay? So, this is the reason why, since the end of World War II, we do not have nuclear powers directly confronting one another. Since 1979 with the Iranians, since 1946 with the Russians and the Chinese, it's all proxy wars. We fight wars now through diplomacy, through politics, through cyber warfare. We use, of course, proxies. We use economic warfare. We use trade warfare. We use many, many different types of warfare. But one thing we don't do is have direct confrontation with nuclear powers, because it's the end of the world as we know it. And people say, yeah, it's going to be a world war. Yeah, right. Yeah, because Russia and China have treaties with the Iranians. Anyone who thinks that Russia or China or both are going to, let's just say that we did declare war on Iran. Anyone who thinks that Russia and China would directly militarily intervene in that against us is crazy. I can assure you the Russians and the Chinese would not get anywhere near a direct military confrontation with the United States at the interest of Iran. No way. Now, if we attacked Beijing, or if we, dropped a missile on Moscow, they'd have no choice. But that's not going to happen. No one is going to risk world war, and world war is not going to happen. No one's going to risk that. Not us, not the Chinese, not the Russians, not the Europeans. No one, for Iran. Iran is a pipsqueak. I mean, Iran is not a threat. They're not really a military threat to the U.S. The only threat they really pose to us is they create a lot of problems with their proxies in the Middle East. They stir the pot, and they can create problems. They can they can create problems, particularly with the economy. With they can do things that create problems with oil prices and things like that. And of course, energy is a major issue in dealing with economies and things like that. So that's the reason that we try to handle the Iranians the way that we do. And any of our foreign policy in the Gulf is all based around energy. And it's not so much what the Iranians could do, it's what any type of a conflict in that region of the world could do, because of how it would affect the world economy. It could cause a major recession and a lot of other problems that go along with that. And nobody wants that. That's the only reason that we haven't hit the Iranians at this point. And anyone who thinks that we're going to put boots in the ground in Iran is crazy. We don't need to put boots on the ground anymore. Those days are over. If in fact, now remember, the Iranians have essentially declared war on us a long time ago. The revolution was in '79. We've essentially been a target of war for the Iranians. They've essentially declared war on us back in '79 after the revolution. It's been going on forever. We largely just brush it off. It's just the crazy Iranians. Yeah, they declared war on us. Whoop-de-doo. What are they going to do? Okay, nothing they can do but little proxy wars and things that they can do. And the only reason we don't totally go over there and just kick the crap out of them is because we don't want to destabilize the world's energy markets and things and such. It's not the Iranians. It's other things, and it has to do with economics and things and such. Not so much because the Iranians are such a formidable force. Now, clearly, you do not want a ground war. A ground war anywhere is tough, but we don't need to fight a ground war. If, in fact, let's just say that Trump did declare war on Iran tomorrow, within 7 days, we could destroy every major target in Iran. Within 7 days, we could take out their entire Air Force and Navy, which is fairly small. We could take out all their command and control, all their communications, destroy their infrastructure, completely devastate and erase their oil refineries, in which case they would have no source of income whatsoever, because that's really all they have. We could completely decimate Iran in about 7 days without putting a single boot on the ground in Iran. And the reason we don't One of the reasons, there's quite a few reasons, but one of the reasons, one of them I just mentioned, it would create havoc for the world economies and the world and the energy, particularly related to the energy markets and things and such. It would be very destabilizing for economies, and the whole world would kind of have an economic slowdown. It would be a lot of problems. And so this is why we try to deal with the Iranians the way we do. If they really posed a serious threat, we would have taken them out. And if they ever get a nuclear weapon, we will. If they ever get a nuke, or first time they test a nuke, they're done. So this is what they'll get. They'll get completely pounded into the dirt. And another reason we don't do it is because it would cause a tremendous humanitarian crisis. We take out those oil refineries in Iran, you're going to have a lot of starving Iranians, and the government doesn't give a damn. They will use that against us. They will show pictures of starving people on the streets and blame it on us. And we don't want millions and millions of Iranians hating us. Right now, more than half the country hates the Iranian regime. And they're protesting out in the streets every day, or revolting, resisting, trying to get rid of the regime. They're very weak. They're on the verge of collapse. That's why they're lashing out the way that they are. It's a desperation move. We are super strong. They are super weak. This idea that we're going to have a World War III, or that we're going to have a war with Iran, is completely nuts. Nuts. If you're one of those people who think like that, you need a checkup from the neck up. You are not thinking clearly. So, please take some time to think through this, and maybe you'll come to the correct conclusion, which is that there's no need for you to lose a single minute's sleep worrying about Iran. Now, certainly they're going to try to respond. They're always doing these things. It's not, even if we wouldn't have killed Soleimani, they would still be doing what they're doing. I mean, this is what they do. This is what they've been doing since, the Iranian Revolution. This is how they operate. This is daily, normal operating procedure for Iranians. This is how it works. So this is nothing really new. It's just that Trump is someone who, is a little more bold than previous presidents. And he has a tendency to back up what he says. And, of course, he sent out a tweet today that said, if Iran strikes any Americans, we have 52 targets identified. And exactly what I'm telling you. We will take out, if they kill an American and Trump decides to back this up, we will take out the oil refineries. We will take out command and control. We'll turn off the lights. We'll blow up their power stations. We'll blow up their water plants. We'll completely destroy the infrastructure of that country. And we could do it in a week. It's not even close. Okay, so please, everybody, calm down. There's not going to be a World War III. There's not going to be boots on the ground, long ground war in Iraq and Iran. The most that will happen is that they will push Trump too far, and he will actually hit some hard targets in Iran. And it'll cause, unfortunately, cause blowback, but it will be blowback in the form of causing problems in the world economy, particularly with the energy markets and things and such. And this is all that you're really looking at. And Trump doesn't want that. He wants a strong world economy. He doesn't want anybody's economy slowing down, especially ours. So to Trump, this is about what are the economic issues that will happen. He's not worried about the military. The Iranians, come on. And don't worry about the Russians and the Chinese. I promise you, they aren't going to do anything but go to the UN and complain. That they might try to assist the Iranians and send them some weapons or something, but you are not going to see Russians and Chinese troops coming into Iran to fight the U.S. And even if they did, we ain't coming. We can do everything that we need to do from 500 miles away or farther. So please get a grip on yourselves, folks. There is no World War III. There is no war in Iran. And if there was, if Trump did actually reciprocate by declaring war on Iran, it would be over very quickly. Very quickly. And it would be devastating. That's pretty much the truth of the matter. Alrighty, let's move on to the next topic. Well, Pelosi's upset because Trump didn't inform her of the strike on Soleimani. Yeah, he didn't inform you because the very first thing you would do is pick up the phone and call your good friend John F. and Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam, and he would place a phone call to the Iranians and let them know. He would tip them off. That's why. Because you're traitors, Nancy. And besides, he doesn't need to. And you say he didn't brief Congress. He did. He briefed Lindsey Graham. There you go. And he probably briefed maybe a couple other people. I don't know. Maybe he briefed Nunes. I don't know. But he doesn't have to brief Congress. Under those circumstances, he doesn't have to brief Congress. It was a lawful strike, whether you agree with it or not. I'm pretty much of a non-interventionist. Most of you know that. But I don't consider hitting a terrorist like Soleimani. I don't consider that a military intervention. I consider that a targeted strike on a high-value target. And he had it coming, and I have no problem with it. Now, boots on the ground in Iran, I don't think Trump would ever do it, and I would not support that. And of course, I was opposed to the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War. I think the war in Vietnam was a lie. Korea, we didn't have very much choice, and the same in World War II. Now, World War I, I don't think we needed to be in that war either. Spanish-American War was a false flag, and we can go on and on. But anyway, yeah, no one really cares. And quite honestly, here's Madam Botox in the process of trying to impeach the president. She just said a couple weeks ago he's a phony president, or he's not legitimate or something. And she expects now that he's going to pick up the phone and share super classified intelligence about a strike that he may carry out, which you cannot allow something like that to leak because it blows up the mission and you put people at risk. There's no way. Does anybody in their right mind think that Trump, under the current state of affairs in Washington, is going to advise Pelosi? She is literally crazy. She is literally crazy to even think such a thing. And of course, we had our friends over at the Commie News Network at CNN bringing out Susan Rice. Susan Rice, the architect of Benghazi, the most incompetent reaction to a crisis that we've seen in probably the last 30, 40 years, probably since the Iranian hostage crisis in 1976. So here's Susan Rice and the architect of Benghazi, who for 13 hours did not provide any support whatsoever to our guys over there. We end up having 4 people killed. Then she goes out and lies about why it happened. Yet they're going to bring her on the Commie News Network after Trump has just done a brilliant job of dealing with the situation. He was given the information. He made a quick, decisive decision. He executed it. Our military and intelligence people did a fantastic job. They executed the mission. He had Marines there, 100 Marines there in no time flat. He had 495 more on their paratroopers on their way within literally 2 hours. And we lost no Americans. Our embassy was fine. They got through the outer wall, but they never got any farther than that. They were turned away. And he handled it brilliantly. I mean, I think the Trump administration did a very, very good job, as well as the military and even the intelligence people did a pretty damn good job. When you compare it to Benghazi, there's no comparison. But here they bring the Susan Rice onto the Commie News Network to critique it. It's like you got to be living in like some sort of a parallel reality to try to even take this stuff seriously. And you have to wonder, I mean, do CNN viewers, I mean, don't they get this? I mean, they have got to, I'd like to see a report on the average IQ of a CNN viewer. It's got to be somewhere around 65 or 70, somewhere between 65 and maybe 72. It's got to be somewhere in the very low IQ range of people who could continue to watch the Commie News Network after the ridiculous propaganda that they've been peddling, particularly since Trump's been president, but even before that. And of course, Susan Rice, she's up to her eyeballs, in Durham's investigation, because at some point, now that Mike Rogers has tipped him off to all these illegal 702 queries that were going on, Susan Rice was the head of the NSC. She was in charge of that. She's the one that's where it was coming from. So Susan Rice is literally guilty of hundreds, if not thousands, of counts of unauthorized, illegal unmaskings. She's up to her eyeballs in Spygate. My goodness, man. It's like, again, it's like living in a parallel reality. How many of you caught the video of Mad Maxine Waters getting pranked by, I think it's the same Russians that pulled the prank on Schiff. I think it's the same guy. And they call Mad Max, and there's a male voice and a female voice, and the male voice is saying that he's Greta Thunberg's father, and the female voice is saying that she's Greta. Now, she sounds nothing like Greta, but you'd think that would have been the first sign to Mad Max that it was a prank, but she apparently has never heard Greta talk because she totally bought into it hook, line, and sinker, and they're telling Mad Max that they're at some sort of a conference, and that Greta wants to tell Mad Max about how Trump insulted her when she met with him in Europe and had a conversation with him. And, of course, everyone knows that Trump has never had any conversation with Greta Thunberg whatsoever, nor would he even bother. But yet, Mad Max buys it hook, line, and sinker. So it's pretty funny, and there's no question she takes it seriously. I haven't heard her response yet to the fact that, it was all a prank. So I've only heard the prank call. But I assume within the next 24 hours, we'll get her response to being pranked. And that should be golden. So we'll be waiting for that response. I'm sure it'll be a big laugh. But it's pretty funny, so you might want to take a look at that. We are learning that John Durham has been to Ukraine. And get this, he has talked while in Ukraine to Ukrainian citizens. They don't say Ukrainian government officials. They say John Durham has been to Ukraine. And he has talked to Ukrainian citizens. Now, I think what that tells us is that these citizens are former members of the Ukrainian government or law enforcement. Probably what they're talking about is this prosecutor, Lusenko, who was one who was fired by Burisma Joe. And there's another prosecutor in his office who's also sort of with him, the two of them together. And they have all the documents and all that kind of stuff. So my guess is the same stuff that Giuliani's got, because he met with him as well. The same stuff that Giuliani's got, Durham has probably also gotten a copy of as well. So he's interviewed Ukrainians and Ukrainian citizens. So he certainly by now has discovered a lot of things, including the role of Chalupa working with those Ukrainian officials. And they have probably also discovered David Kramer, his activities over there, as well as the FBI having a satellite office in D.C. at the Ukrainian embassy, where they were coordinating with Ukrainian officials, and so probably other things as well. So yes, Durham has been in Ukraine. He has talked to some Ukrainians there, and he's clearly aware of the role that played. And of course, again, going back and looking at the origins of Russiagate, it probably didn't take him long to find out that the Black Ledger that was the propaganda, the false propaganda that was released in August of 2016, which forced Manafort out of the Trump campaign, turned out to be a bunch of garbage. And in fact, one of the three people involved in pushing that was convicted in Ukraine in court, convicted of being involved in that. And of course, it turned out to be all bullshit. And of course, we know that Chalupa was very involved in that Black Ledger, and that she had also brought Isikoff in, because we have emails from Chalupa bragging about the fact that this Black Ledger is coming out, and that she is putting Isikoff into contact with the people who are doing it, and that they're going to be giving him information, which is why he comes out and writes the story about the Black Ledger, and then the Black Ledger is produced, and the next thing you know, Trump has got to fire Manafort, which leads to all the other things that unfortunately happened to Manafort after that. So Durham has learned all of this and likely more. Judicial Watch is suing the Department of Justice and the Department of State for all the communications of Eric Ciaramella. Ciaramella. That's right. So the problem is it takes a couple years to actually win. Even if he wins the lawsuit, it takes time to get all that stuff. But yes, again, I mean, I'm really hoping that when the Durham investigation is over, they just declassify everything. Once the whole coup plot has been exposed, there's no reason to keep the stuff classified. It's basically worthless material. It's material that was created in association with a coup, not any type of government official business or anything else. Just a scheme, and it doesn't have any right to have any classification to it whatsoever. And everything that has anything to do with the coup plot, and of course Ciaramella's communications would have a lot to do with that. Remember, Ciaramella, when you start digging into Ukraine, you stumble onto Ciaramella. He was very involved in the coup plot very early on. And remember, originally when they put this hoax together on Manafort with the Black Ledger, and Ciaramella was involved in that with Chalupa and possibly with Lieutenant Colonel Vendeman, that whole group, all involved in that. Their plan was to take out Trump. They believed if they could show that Manafort, his campaign manager, was taking all these illegal contributions and was involved in wire fraud, involved in not counterfeiting. I forget what it is, but there was like 3 or 4 charges that they were pushing for, and they believed that by taking out Manafort with all these allegations would take out Trump as well. So their target was Trump. Manafort was the vehicle to get him there. So Trump was the target of the stuff going on in Ukraine, not Manafort. He was just, the innocent bystander that was the means by which they could get to Trump. Trump was the target, not really Manafort. Manafort was the means to an end. And, of course, Durham will be figuring all of this out. And Ciaramella is up to his eyeballs in all of that stuff that was going on in Ukraine. We now have the Mirror.uk reporting that Ghislaine Maxwell, that's Epstein's woman who went out and, gathered up all these girls to be used for whatever. This woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, it's being reported by Mirror UK that she is being hidden in Israel at a safe house. The Israeli intelligence is hiding Ghislaine Maxwell, according to the Mirror.uk. Now, that would certainly back up the information that came out a couple weeks ago that Maxwell and Epstein were in some way involved with Israeli intelligence. Apparently, Maxwell's father worked with Israeli intelligence. And one of the things he did was he would get these women and have these women make contact with targets of the Israeli government so that they could get some sort of a sex scandal going so that they could, target them to hurt them politically. And that this had been going on for a long time. And he may have been involved in other things. And apparently, this particular craft was passed down to the daughter, Maxwell, after her father died of some very suspicious circumstances. And so now it looks like, and we've heard that Epstein may have had some connection to intelligence people, or certainly had a lot of dirt on a lot of people, and that would have been of great interest to all the intelligence agencies. Intelligence agencies love to get the type of information that Epstein would have had, and Maxwell would have had the same information. So one or both of them, we suspect, was likely a source or an asset of various intelligence agencies, and it looks like Israeli. So that is what's being reported by the Mirror.uk. Ghislaine Maxwell is being hidden in Israel at a safe house. It's very interesting because the U.S. government is interested in talking to her. Mr. Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head has not tweeted since December the 17th, which is about 2 days after it became public information that John Durham had requested all of Brennan's communications at the CIA, his emails, his texts, various documents, travel records, expenditure accounts, and things and such. Not just his professional communications and bank accounts and travel records, but also his private have been subpoenaed as well by Durham. And so we haven't heard a peep out of Brennan since December 17th, and that's unlike him. And you would think that after Trump did this strike, that certainly would have evoked a response from Mr. Potato Head. I was expecting it. I was waiting for it. It did not come, and still hasn't come. So he's gone underground. He's gone very silent, which tells us that either he has now been interviewed by Durham and he knows he's in deep trouble, or once word came out that Durham was getting access to all these records, Brennan was probably advised by his attorney to shut up. And that's probably something he should have done a very long time ago, because the problem that Comey and Brennan have, those two specifically, the problem they have is that if you get into a court hearing and you have all this circumstantial evidence, and you have the jury there, the defense for Mr. Potato Head will not be able to argue that there was no political bias involved. That, hey, it doesn't look good, but hey, at the CIA he was a total professional and he didn't let the politics get involved in his work. But that's not going to fly, because all Durham has to do is show Brennan's texts about Trump. When you look at Brennan's texts about Trump, they pretty much provide the reason why Brennan would have done all those things that he did, that weren't just simply him trying to figure out what the Russians were doing. No, it was a lot more than that, and his tweets are ultimately going to take away any hope he had of claiming plausible deniability. Of, oh, well, that's a bunch of circumstantial evidence, but you can't prove that my intentions were to be involved in a coup or take out the president. But when you look at his tweets, the intent part of it is sewn up, because you can see from his tweets how biased he is. Clearly, he had intent to want to do harm to Trump, and it's there in his own tweets. We're also learning that it's very likely that, based on all the information that Durham is going to have on Mr. Potato Head, he is probably, most certainly, going to be targeted maybe as the chief sort of mastermind of the intelligence things going on, Halper, Downer, Mifsud, all those guys probably being run by Brennan or other firms contracted by Brennan to run them. And it's very likely that Gina Haspel, the current CIA director, who's really a acolyte of Brennan's, it's very likely that Gina Haspel will be in a position where she may be forced to testify against Mr. Potato Head in a criminal court hearing. Yep. One last thing. I mentioned to you that there was a picture of Bill Clinton and Stephen Rowe. That would be Mifsud's friend and lawyer. There's a picture. I told you I didn't know when that picture was taken. I now have the date of that photo. That photo was taken of Bill Clinton and Stephen Rowe on May the 18th of 2012. May 18th of 2012. Bill Clinton and Stephen Rowe posing in a picture together. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. Don't forget your pick for Dumbass of the Week. See ya. Bye.